At the recent Labour Party conference, Jacinda Ardern announced funding for 600 dedicated trained learning support teachers for primary and secondary schools, one for every urban school. She promised more funding to follow for support in rural schools. Her announcement was heralded as a game changer for students, parents and teachers alike. Over the next few minutes, I will highlight how welcome this support is, as the current teaching and learning issue in New Zealand secondary schools today is the rising number of children with learning disabilities affected by drugs. In some areas, it has become so prevalent that it has become the new normal. P, or methamphetamine, was introduced into New Zealand in 2002, and by 2005 it had crossed all sections of society, and not only did we have fast babies, but P babies also. Now, 16 years on, we are seeing the lasting effect it is having. Our P babies will soon be adults. To investigate the effects, needs and solutions, I spoke with key personnel at an urban school that faces these problems. I began by asking what sort of learning disorders and disabilities do they see in their classrooms.
Things like ADHD is probably one of the more common ones. Global developmental delays, and just general learning difficulties or undiagnosed behaviour difficulties as well. A lot of our Year 7s have got a survival brain, which means that when they were born, their brain was not finely attuned for thriving. There's a good chance that a lot of the mothers would have been drinking in pregnancy or using drugs in pregnancy, smoking weed or synthetics or P as well. And so when the babies are born and obviously raised, they're not going to be getting that, I suppose, ideal first 1,000-day experience where their brain was just hardwired from the first 1,000 days to just survive and protect itself. It wasn't thrive. It wasn't hardwired to do any luxury things like learning and taking things in and thinking about how other people must feel about stuff. And we're just really seeing that kind of stuff come through in the classroom. My guesstimate would be around 60% of the students with a learning or behaviour issue. Yeah, it's hard to say because we'll talk to other people who do say that it's on the rise, but then other people will say that it's actually not, It often feels like it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is. The restorative process is the way forward, because it's all about relationships with everyone, not just kids like that, but I believe that's the secret to student success. Thinking about the tough love not really working for a lot of those kids. That's, as I said, with the restorative process is the way to go there. They just need to be aware of the individual kids as well, because obviously everyone's different and they're all spectrums, aren't they, where it can be either severely or very, very slightly and have a few different quirks. Intro docs can be quite helpful for those kids there, where they can give you a few ideas of what actually works for that particular individual kid. So just getting to know each of your kids and what what's going to work with them.
Global developmental delay is another name that used to be used for anything that couldn't be given a specific diagnosis, like ADHD, ODD, FASD. Now we're seeing more progress in diagnosis. Organisations like CAFS that are doing the paediatric assessments are recognising how prevalent these drugs and alcohol are and influencing the students' development, and we're being brave about naming it now. Yes, it is an increasing problem, and it's very relevant to Hawke's Bay because I think we've got the highest rate of drug dependency per capita in New Zealand. Generally, you will see a cognitive impairment, so they're not working at the same academic level. You'll see social impairment, that they're not getting on well with their peers. Anger management is something we see a lot of, that they're struggling to process emotion and feeling, process anger. But a lot of that's also social modelling, part of their socialisation at home. Really, you'll see a delay across the board for these students. So they're struggling in a number of areas. I think attending as much training as possible around these disorders is really important because the information changes and gets updated. Diagnoses change. To be brave enough to go out and seek information for what you need for the students in your class. They need curriculum adaptation at a lower level. Look at the agencies that are within the school and outside of the school that can provide support for their social and emotional needs. So do they need time out with teacher aides or specialist teachers if it's a learning disorder? Do we need a better relationship with the whānau? That's really important in terms of getting background information and buy-in and also as part of the restorative process if they've had disciplinary matters, that relationship with whānau is important. So teachers are needing to go out and foster those relationships.
You asked the primary schools. It's about fetal alcohol and pee babies. We get it from our AIII, community of learning. That's the information that we've been given around that. Year 1, Year 2, them coming in, and they're the pee babies. So you are faced with students that have a low attention span. They can't make connections very easily. When you've got things laid out very clearly in front of them, they don't make connections. They haven't got life experiences to hook some of those things that you're talking about onto, because they just find that really challenging. So reading and writing, maths, counting up to 10 is a challenge. And secondary school teachers say, I'm not trained to do that, but it's something that we need to think about, we need to learn from our primary. Behaviour management's an issue because they can't link their behaviour to a consequence, or even if you do restorative practices like we do here, that empathy, that connection as well doesn't happen. So it's that whole way of feeling within a school, but also it's looking at what level are they going to be able to get to. They might not even get level 1 literacy, functional numeracy. So we work at finding something that is going to be applicable for them. So we've got farming courses, we've got a course around early childhood, because they'll have different skills. Some of them might be quite good with relationships, some of them might not be. So it's about looking at them all individually. But then that's what you should be doing with all your students anyway. So, if we were able to have smaller classes, you'd have more time with the teacher, you'd have more support to get them to the point where they can get to, and possibly even hopefully develop them further. We've got students here that we all know are fetal alcohol, and they haven't got anything in place to support them or anything, but we all know that, and we think about how we're going to respond to them. If your student is like that, sometimes the parent is fetal alcohol as well.
The complexity of diagnosis means the true number of students coming through our schools with learning difficulties is unknown, and the number of FAST babies or P babies only an estimate. Anecdotally, they seem to be on the rise. Each of these students requires individualised curricular adaptation and generally more hands-on time with their teachers. Therefore, the 600 new specialised teaching staff for special needs will lighten the load and be greatly welcomed.